Good evening. On behalf of the San Mateo Police Department, I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight for tonight's Real Talk. This is the third year we've been holding virtual town hall meetings. I am Jeremy Surratt. I'm the Public Information Officer for the San Mateo Police Department, and I will be your host tonight. Over the past 3 years, we've covered numerous topics on Real Talk, from who we are as a police department to what resources we have to better serve the community, to conversations with the community on how we can get better and what they need. If you're new to Real Talk, like I was before I started this, I please go to our YouTube channel. All of our Real Talks are held there, and you can go back and review it. And there's a bunch of information and a bunch of resources that are available on every single Real Talk. So please spend some time and go back and look at some of those episodes. During tonight's Real Talk, we'll be discussing domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and domestic violence impacts millions of people each year. Almost every single person will be affected in some way over the course of their life by domestic violence. We have 4 speakers for you tonight. Our first speaker will be our Chief of Police at the San Mateo Police Department, Ed Barberini. We also have 2 representatives from CORA, and CORA stands for Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. The representatives are Lynn Schutte, who is the Director of Quality and Strategic Initiatives. And we also have Celeste Mercado, who's the Manager of Crisis Support. We also have speaking tonight, Sergeant Michael Hopsch, who is a sergeant here at the San Mateo Police Department. At the end of tonight's Real Talk, we're going to have some time to answer questions that any of you might have that pops up during our presentations from all of our speakers. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat bar. Or if you're watching this on Facebook Live, please email the questions to pdpio@cityofsanmateo.org. And then at the end, during the question and answer period, if you click that little raise your hand button on Zoom, then we'll get to you as quickly as we can. And then to start off tonight's Real Talk, we're going to begin with the Chief of Police, Chief Ed Barberini. He's been our chief here at San Mateo Police Department since 2020. So ladies and gentlemen, Chief Barberini.
Good evening. Thank you, Jeremy, and welcome to Real Talk. Whether you're joining us live or you're watching a recorded version of this, we appreciate you tuning in. As Jeremy mentioned, we started this a few years ago. We see it as a nice avenue to communicate with all of you and the public and answer any questions, as well as share information and retain that information so folks can go back and take a look at it again, should they not be able to join us live or just kind of want to review some of the information that's shared during this session. We've been doing this for a few years, and we've enjoyed it very much. We hope to continue it. If there are subject matters or topics that you'd like us to discuss that we haven't, please, we are always looking for new content and a new topic to discuss. So we want to know what you're interested in. So please don't hesitate to share those in the future. As Jeremy mentioned, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's not only the San Mateo Police Department, but I think I can speak for all of the police departments in the county and Bay Area. We take domestic violence very seriously. It's a difficult topic. I know that difficult subject matter to address. I know I've been a police officer since the early 90s, and I can tell you that the laws are better. Throughout my career, I've dealt with a lot of frustration responding to calls involving domestic violence and not feeling like I could do a heck of a lot. I also came to the realization that enforcement and handcuffs is not the only answer to this problem. It's kind of a reactionary approach that doesn't break what we always refer to as the cycle. If showing up, triaging an incident, maybe arresting somebody, taking somebody to jail, whatever the law will allow to keep others safe, we will do. We're willing to do that on a regular basis, and unfortunately we do. However, we also recognize that that doesn't solve the long-term issue and what has more often than not been a problem for a long time. And simply taking that one step really doesn't do a lot to address a bigger problem. Recognizing that, we are continually looking for partners to address this issue. It's difficult when we talk about crime prevention, this isn't the overt crime that we can put patrol cars out and dissuade people from committing crimes that are often committed in the public eye. This one is something that is much more difficult to prevent. The education piece is strong, a strong component of this, and we're always looking for new and innovative ways to keep our public safe, and that includes domestic violence. A main approach of that is working with other partners. We work closely with our DA's office and their victim services unit. There are a lot of nonprofits and NGOs that offer their support in combating this difficult issue. None is stronger than CORA. As Jeremy mentioned, CORA is a tremendous partner, not only with the San Mateo Police Department, but with law enforcement throughout the county. It's the best model that I've seen to try to break that cycle that I mentioned earlier, and to dig deep into what the issues are beyond whatever criminal act may have occurred, but look at other components of why this is happening, and more importantly, how can we make it stop, and how can we remove those who are being victimized from situations that are unsafe. So I'm excited to have CORA with us. I know they have some new programs tonight to try to get ahead of this issue. We're excited about it. We're hopeful that our partnership not only grows stronger, but that their new ideas and new initiatives really have an impact on the issue of domestic violence, and that in the future we'll be responding to less and less of these types of calls for service. So again, thank you for being here. I'm going to sit back and watch and learn with the rest of you, but I will be available after the fact should anyone want to reach out and have questions for me. But I am by far not the expert on this panel tonight. I'm like all of you, excited about new and innovative ways to address what is a very serious issue, not only in our community, but in all communities. So thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. As being a patrol officer for the last 8 years in the city of San Mateo, all of our responding officers, when we respond to a call for service that includes domestic violence, we do our best to offer resources and help out the family the best we can. And now, before we move on to the next speaker, I got a question for you guys, a little poll. So that should be popping up on your screens right now. So the question is, what is the estimated number of women who have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner? So you have 4 options there. It's 1 in 4, 1 in 10, 1 in 50, or 1 in 100. So if you can just make your choice there. And then we also have a second question, which is, what is the estimated number of men who have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner? Once again, the choice is 1 in 7, 1 in 20, 1 in 100, or 1 in 200. So if you can just click on your best guess, and we'll give some time for the answers to pop up. Okay. So the answers, which about 50% got it right. So for the number of women who have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner, it is 1 in 4. And for the estimated number of men who have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner, the answer is 1 in 7. So with that being said, unfortunately, this is something that occurs way too often within everyone and everyone's relationships. So for our next speaker, Lynn Schutte, difficult to pronounce that last name. I've been working on it, but she's been a member with CORA for quite some time, and she's going to if you could, Lynn, if you could introduce yourself, how long you've worked with CORA, and then give an overview of the organization and the resources that CORA provides to the community.
Happy to do so. Thanks for inviting us, especially during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's great to be able to get the word out. Before I say anything, I want to highlight our 1-800 number for those of you who are listening in right now, whether it's live or recorded, and you have any concerns that you may be in a domestic violence relationship. The number is 1-800-300-1080. You could call anytime, any day. So what does CORA do? And how long have I been there? I've been there for 10 years, and I work in quality and strategic initiatives. So always looking to better what we're doing and expand the work that we're doing and the partners that we're working with. The police department is probably our key partnership. You respond to the calls immediately when they come in via 911, and we're responding with you after the fact. And so we're really appreciative of that partnership. That is the most dangerous call that an officer can respond to, and we appreciate that we partner with you on that. CORA provides everything from hotline to housing. What does that mean? So it includes our 24-hour hotline where 1-800-300-1080. You can call anytime, any day, and there will be somebody there to answer your questions, help you to create a safety plan, help you to access resources. We have a safe house. We actually have 2 safe houses where when somebody's fleeing domestic violence, they don't have anywhere else to go. They're at imminent danger. These are confidential locations in the county where we can house you and your children. We have legal services to assist folks, emergency protective orders, for example. We also have volunteers that work with us and are coached by our legal department to help support people who need to go to court. Going to court is very scary. Having to face somebody who has caused you harm is not an easy thing to do. So our legal department has a team that will go with folks to accompany them to have that difficult court date, as well as lawyers who will help with a lot of the issues that have to do directly with domestic violence. We have our mental health department, which includes one-to-one counseling groups. We have at any given time probably about a dozen different groups going on in different subject matter pertaining to intimate partner abuse. We have our community education program, which is working with different entities in the county, whether it's the county itself, which always wants to partner with the community to help solve problems like domestic violence. So we're training them on the many issues related to intimate partner abuse. We're also working with schools, working with kids in the schools to help them understand what healthy relationships look like. And we're beefing up our prevention work. We know this is critical because in 2023 alone, there's been 5 murders in our county. Our county rarely has any murders at all. And to have 5 is unusual in itself. But all 5 of them are domestic violence related, and 2 of them were through the use of firearms. So really a very unusual year. And that doesn't include the highly publicized murder last September in San Carlos, which really gave rise to the program I want to highlight tonight called Speak Up. That particular murder really shook the San Carlos community to its core. It happened in broad daylight in front of a lot of neighbors, people who were going out to lunch, walking their dogs. It happened in front of everybody in broad daylight. The city council of San Carlos was really concerned about that. And they'd heard from a lot of residents, people who wanted to know, what can we do? And of course, that's a question that we've all heard at CORA at one point or another. And so we took that question to heart and worked very closely with the city of San Carlos's city council and developed a program called Speak Up. Speak Up is a program that puts the tools into the hands of our local businesses in how to address domestic violence. So it teaches them what is domestic violence, because it takes many forms. It's not just the things that you might see, but it's things that are unseen. It's the love bombing that the kids talk about nowadays, where their phones are blowing up with texts. So let's say there's a manicurist who's, trying to give somebody a manicure and their phone keeps blowing up with texts. They might hear that, oh, that's my partner who's always concerned about where I am and wants to know what I'm doing. Well, if it's excessive, that could be abusive. It could be somebody who is being abused by their intimate partner. Again, kind of carrying out that manicurist experience. Maybe they might notice on the person's wrists defensive wounds. They would then have this training from Speak Up that would not only tell them what is intimate partner abuse and what are some of the red flags, but also how they can support that person. What things to say, what not to say. For example, don't say, why don't you just leave? That would be something that would immediately turn off a person who may be being abused, but rather what things to say, like, I'm here to support you. Anytime you want to talk to me, please do. We also leave the businesses with business cards that have QR codes and stickers that they could put in their bathrooms. So if somebody's in the bathroom and they read, the CORA logo and they have their phone, they can highlight the QR code and get right to our website and see our 1-800-300-1080 number, so they know they can call us and get support. And so by really engaging the community in this way through our local businesses, which really care about the community that they're serving, we're able to help get people from being merely bystanders to upstanders, to really engage them in this work together, because it takes an entire community to assist somebody who's fleeing. And so far, San Carlos is the birthplace of this program and really gave us the ability to launch this. And as of today, we have a total of 9 cities in San Mateo County, including the city of San Mateo, that have supported Speak Up. And if you're in one of the following cities, you will, in your business, you will be contacted shortly. It's San Mateo, South San Francisco, which was the first city to sign on. Thank you, my birth city. Proud of you all. We also have Hillsborough, East Palo Alto, and Pacifica. And I know I'm missing a few. And by the end of this talk, I'll have all of the cities here that I can report out. But we're really proud to be part of this and really honored by the support that we've received. And I do know that this is already making a difference, as literally dozens of businesses in San Carlos have been trained and are now aware of what they can do to help, and have these stickers up in their bathrooms and these cards in their hands to hand out to folks who may be facing domestic violence. So hopefully we have fewer and fewer, and next year maybe we report that there aren't any murders in the county. So that's CORA in a nutshell, and the prevention work called Speak Up that we're working on this year.
Lynn, thank you very much for that. Just a couple of questions about Speak Up. You said it's a newer program. When did that program start?
The program started in 2023. The city, I believe it was December of 2022, voted to approve the financial support to start the pilot program. And we started working to develop the program in January and really launched, beta launched in April. And so as of July of this year, we've really gotten going a lot faster in the program and contacted a lot more businesses.
Awesome. And now if I'm a business owner, and I'm looking for this training, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
The best way is to email us at info@corasupport.org, and we will forward that to our Speak Up staff, who will then contact you, and we'd be happy to come on out and do 15-minute presentation. Literally, that's all it takes, 15-minute to do those 3 steps. What is intimate partner abuse? What are the red flags? And what can you do to help?
Thank you. And so I'm assuming that you're pushing this and trying to get this county-wide to every city throughout the county, to help teach business owners and just make them aware of everything. Is Speak Up something that you're also thinking about partnering with law enforcement to do that training with?
In terms of providing the training to law enforcement, absolutely. Any department that'd like to hear Speak Up is welcome to. I know Celeste will also talk a bit about some of the training offered through her department that specifically is tailored for law enforcement. But also Speak Up is available as well for all the cities that are signing on.
Thank you very much, Lynn. And our next speaker is going to be Celeste Mercado. She also works for CORA. Celeste, can you introduce yourself, how long you've been with CORA, and what do you do as a manager of crisis support?
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So I've been with CORA for 15 years this month. I started as a crisis counselor and got promoted throughout the years. And I oversee our 24-hour hotline and emergency response program. So Lynn gave a little bit of info about our hotline. It is 24 hours, 365 days, 7 days a week, right? It's the hotline that never closes, even during holidays. We're open all the time. We primarily serve the county of San Mateo, but we do get calls from out of the county, from out of the state, even from outside the country. We get calls from interesting Ireland, the Philippines, Spain. And we always ask, like, how did you find our information, right? Coming from far. And usually they say Google or like a search device that they use in their country. That's how they hear from us. Recently, it's because of COVID 2020 and a lot of transition that happened to that. We also get a lot of calls from like Mexico and South America, Central America, which we find kind of unique. So our primary service that we provide in our hotline and emergency response program is providing crisis intervention, right? And what is crisis intervention? It is a service where we are talking about safety planning, right? Each safety plan is individualized. Of course, there's a generic safety plan around making sure you have your documents ready, you have an emergency bag, emergency contacts, but each situation looks different. So each of the counselors are certified, 40-hour trained, certified in how to support someone in crisis. We support somebody with emotional support, right? So someone that just needs to talk about what's been going on in the relationship. They might be thinking of leaving. They're not exactly sure what's provided. They might be scared. A lot of the fear that comes from leaving a relationship is stability, right? Where am I going to live? I'm dependent on this person. On my partner, I don't have any, work experience, or what about my children? So we're there to provide that support and resources, either within our agency or our community, right? As mentioned, we do collaborate, and we have a program called Emergency Response Program, which is working with law enforcement. And this is our collaboration that we have with all the departments here in San Mateo County, including BART, Highway Patrol, and the airport. So we do get referrals from them as well. And part of our collaboration is that when an officer is out on duty and they get a call in regards to domestic violence with an intimate partner, they will go and de-escalate the situation. And once it's safe, the officer would then make a referral to our agency by calling, right? They have a specific number that they will call and connect the victim with a crisis counselor. The officer is there on standby to make sure the victim is supported and connected and is able to receive the support. They're also there to advocate, right? When someone, sometimes the victim needs that extra step to get somewhere safe, right? Maybe going home is no longer safe for them, right? Maybe what we would say the partner who caused harm is out in the community and maybe they haven't been arrested or whatever the situation might be, and the officer is there to provide that support and let us know, right? When somebody's calling or needs support, especially when law enforcement is involved, sometimes they are very scared and they don't know how to communicate properly, and there's so much going on. It's always useful to have the officer there to give us a little bit of background on what happened, what's going on, and then connect us with the victim right there and then. We provide training to law enforcement. We provide new officer trainings just to kind of get them equipped with information about our ERP program, how to make referrals. We provide a specific training like for strangulation or any other training the officer might need. For example, how to speak to a victim, right? Ensure that they understand the impact that it has when they are, presenting themselves with someone. We also provide ongoing, education. So we go to their briefings and everything to provide resources and information for the officers. We do have a new program called Sparks that is in collaboration also with law enforcement. And Spark is really paying attention to the families that have children, right? And we're trying to provide that extra resource for families with children to try to provide that prevention work, right? It's something that it's recently started this year and trying to really pay attention and really reach out to the families and connect them to our services, primarily with mental health services and case management as a way of providing that extra support to them. We have counselors that are bilingual in English and in Spanish, always available. And of course, if another language is needed, we do use Language Line that can provide that support. And the support is also for the officers, just in case, for example, they don't have someone available to provide interpretation services, we're able to support at that time being. So that's kind of like what we support. With our ERP program, we provide follow-ups as well with the referrals. We provide ongoing support. So it's not just a one-time referral. We continue speaking to the parties involved and providing and connecting them to services. Sometimes they don't want to right there and that's okay, right? As long as they know who we are. As Lynn mentioned, our hotline is available. And sometimes we have people calling even a year later, but they remember, right? They remember how they got connected. They remember the officer who attempted to connect them at that time, and maybe they were not ready, as you kind of saw the statistics. It takes some time, right? Sometimes up to 7 times for somebody leaving the relationship to actually get the support that they need. And we're here to support them. We serve everybody that's been impacted with domestic violence. So not only women, but also men, members of the LGBTQ community as well. We're here to support and provide any resources that they might be available. We collaborate with different organizations within the county as well, again, to provide the extensive resources for the clients so they know they're not alone and hopefully make their decisions a little bit easier to take the next step. Kind of like what we do.
Thank you, Celeste. A couple questions. How important is it for a victim or a survivor of domestic violence as soon as they're going through an incident to connect with you and to talk to someone about that and connect them to resources?
Yeah, I think it's important if they know of us to connect right away, because we can provide different resources. So for example, we can connect them with emergency housing, right? If they're calling, and it can be at any time, right? Somebody can decide that they're ready to leave or they need to leave like at 2 in the morning, right? We're there to support with that process. they can let the officer know, especially, let's say an officer forgets that we're here, they don't know because they're busy with dealing with other paperwork. They can let the officer know, like, hey, can I be connected to CORA? And that's what's unique about the program, that the officer has this different number from our hotline that they can connect with the counselor right away. And those calls do get prioritized to make sure that we are connecting and providing that resource. We're also there because I know there's a lot of fear around children, right? What happens if I leave with my children right now? Am I going to get in trouble? So we can talk to them right there and then and ease a little bit of their concern and connect them with our legal services right away, or connect them with any other services that we have right away. So the sooner the better.
Thank you. If someone is in a domestic violence situation and they're looking to leave that situation, you said they can call the hotline anytime. A couple questions you brought up, like emergency shelter and stuff like that. A lot of times we see that finances might be a reason why someone doesn't want to leave a relationship or something like that. So does CORA provide financial support, or how does someone that makes up their mind to say, hey, I want to leave this bad situation, how are some ways that CORA can support them to get them out of that situation and get them on their feet?
Yeah, so if they were to be connected, for example, to our safe house, they come to our safe house, there is an advocate there that can help them, right? With housing, connecting them to create work and things like that, right? If they're not ready for that step, there are different agencies that we connect to that can help them with a financial support, right? And it depends, right? It varies on what kind of financial support they might need. It might be getting general support, right? So we connect them with, CalWorks and things like that, they can get support. Maybe they just need like an emergency fund, like they have some types of savings, they can move on to their new location, they just need maybe some type of income. We have flex funds for that, right? So it really depends on the situation that they're facing, so in order for us to support and connect them to the right resource. I know that sometimes leaving, it is scary, and like I said, we are able here to provide that support. In terms of connecting them to the resources that they need to, right? Like I said, we do have case management that can also support them, especially they have little ones. We have a First 5 program for parents that have children 0 to 5, and they provide case management, and they can also connect them with childcare, with support with the schools, as well as financial resources. I think the first step is definitely connecting them to sign up for general assistance in order to provide that. Legal also comes very handy in situations like this in terms of providing and discussing like child support, right? And in terms of the children and providing that support for them.
I think that's great. Because I have a feeling that if someone's in that situation, they're going to need that support, and they're going to need those resources and someone to be there for them and to walk them through the next steps that they need to do to distance themselves from that situation and that relationship, so that they can establish a new life and a safer life. Celeste, thank you very much. So as of right now, we're going to do our second question, which is our second poll. That should be popping up on your screen right now. And that states, how many domestic violence related police reports has San Mateo Police Department taken in this year? So from the beginning of the year till today. Questions, go ahead and click on, or the answers, go ahead and click on them. We have 0 to 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 200, or more than 200. So I'll give you a couple seconds to click on that. Okay, let's see the results. And we got it split. So the correct answer, unfortunately, as of to date right now, San Mateo Police Department has taken 196 cases related to domestic violence. So that's obviously way more than we hope and way more than we want to see. But that just goes back to showing that there are a lot of individuals affected by domestic violence, and it's just a situation that we want to see resolved, and we don't want anyone to be in this situation. Our next speaker, he's a sergeant here at San Mateo Police Department, Sergeant Michael Hopsch. If you can please introduce yourself to the audience and be kind enough to share your story with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here, and a big thank you to Lynn and Celeste for taking up part of your evening tonight. Appreciate your dedication to the cause. I'm Mike Hopsch. I'm a sergeant with the police department. I've been in law enforcement for 16 years, and I've worked a multitude of different units and positions within the department, but where domestic violence really meets, where patrol officers really meet domestic violence is in our field operations bureau, where we are out there responding to these 911 calls and diagnosing situations and going out there and trying to provide services for victims and hold those that are committing these atrocious acts accountable and bringing them to justice. And hopefully by doing that, we're able to bring them resources too, because as Chief Barberini was mentioning earlier, we can't just arrest our way out of this problem. A lot of it has to do with education and resources and partnering with, a nonprofit like CORA. CORA has been a phenomenal resource and a great partner with our police department. And I say that because I came here from a different police department, from a larger agency, and we did not have a great relationship with the domestic violence abuse nonprofit in that region. And so I can tell you from experience, just seeing and being on the other side of the fence, that CORA is a great partner, and we're really grateful for their partnership. But the reason I got into law enforcement is kind of a serious one. I take this career pretty seriously, and I got into it to be a voice for victims. And domestic violence victims have a very special place in my heart, because growing up, my mother was beaten and raped regularly by my father, and my brother and sister witnessed these atrocious acts by my father. And because of the police, they actually saved my mother's life. When we were living down in LA, we had witnessed my mother's abuse regularly. I mean, I can tell you stories about what we saw, but there was one particular day where my mother actually dropped off my brother, my sister, and I at a girlfriend's house, and she essentially said goodbye to us and went back to the house, where she ended up getting beaten by my father again. And she was going to call it quits. She actually walked into the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife, and she was standing in the kitchen thinking about her 3 children, everything she was about to leave behind. And as the knife was pressed up against her wrists, she was going to kill herself in the kitchen there, with my father just sitting in the bedroom after he punched her, strangled her, and tried to kill her. She was actually going to just take her own life. And so while she was standing in the kitchen, there were 3 knocks at the door, and she was ordered to go open the door by my father. And so she opened the door, and standing at the doorstep was a Los Angeles Police Department officer. And the officer saw that my mother had bruises. She was bleeding from her nose. It was obvious that she was beaten. And the officer told her that someone had called 911. I guess a neighbor heard the fight, heard them screaming. And so, and these are calls that I've been to myself now as a police officer. And so the LAPD explained this to her, and she said, no, nothing happened. I just fell down the stairs. Everything's fine, which is a pretty typical response. And so the LAPD officer said, I don't believe you, we're coming in. And they walked in and they arrested my father, thankfully. This was back in the 80s. The laws were different back then. The laws have improved significantly since then. He was ultimately released from the justice system. And, the cycle of violence continued. And I'm glad that Officer Surratt ended up asking that question about finances, because my mother was dependent on my father for finances. He wouldn't allow her to work because he controlled everything that she did. So I remember one night specifically, she just chose it was time to get out. And this is where CORA comes in, because I think we need to emphasize the resources that are out there, because you just never know when a victim is ready or a survivor is ready to leave. And so having these posters around, educating the community, I think is extremely valuable, because you need to just be ready to pick up the phone when a survivor is ready to call or leave. And so anyway, one night, my mother ended up deciding, hey, I'm done. And she packed up all of our clothes in black garbage bags, and my uncle drove across the nation and picked us up, and we escaped. And it was kind of scary for us, because as kids, we, sustained abuse too. And so that's one thing that I think survivors need to remember, is that you're not the only one getting hurt by the abuse. If you have children, they are getting hurt by the abuse. So if you don't want to leave for yourself, you need to leave for your children, because keeping them in that environment damages them for a long time. So anyway, my mother is a survivor of domestic violence, and that experience has made her stronger, and she's doing incredible things today. She's a vice president for a bank. She's got herself a ranch. She's doing incredible things, and she's gotten into farming and healing people, and just being a listening, having an ear for people who are going through hard times. And it's made her stronger, but it's made her kids stronger too. And we're out here serving. My sister's in the military. I'm obviously in law enforcement. So we are contributing to make our communities better and safer. And I guess my message is I'd like to reaffirm that if you know someone who's in an abusive relationship, just let them know that there are allies in the police department. There are people here that have experienced or witnessed what you're going through. And there are tremendous resources like CORA, who also are allies and who have resources at their disposal to help pull you out of a domestic violence relationship. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening to my story. And back to you, Officer Surratt.
Thank you, Sergeant Hobbs. That's an incredible story, and I'm glad your mother is surviving and doing well, and got out of that horrible situation. And I appreciate you bringing that passion for helping other victims or survivors of domestic violence with you and to the police department. I feel that our police department as a whole is very passionate about getting the resources to survivors and victims of domestic violence. Just to showcase that, the county, the San Mateo County Domestic Violence Council created a Barbara Hammerman Award back in 2005. And that award is named after a lieutenant that worked here, Barbara Hammerman. And it's for outstanding service and dedication to survivors of domestic violence, which the county passes out every year. And our department, officers from our department have been awarded that more than any other department in the county. So I think that shows not only your passion that you bring to the job, but it goes throughout the department, and we want to do the best for our community and everyone that's in it. So again, thank you for sharing that story. So at this time, we have about 10 minutes for questions. Once again, if you have a question, please, if you're on Facebook Live and would like to send that over, please email pio@cityofsanmateo.org, or you can raise your hand on Zoom or in the chat. Go ahead and put in your question there. And we have a question. I'm going to send this one over to Lynn. If you could answer this one for me. If a person that is going through a domestic violence incident or is in a relationship, and they call the hotline, does the hotline for CORA automatically contact law enforcement? So if you could please answer that.
We do not. So that's entirely up to the survivor, whether they'd like to call law enforcement. But we will walk them through a safety plan and help them think through their options and resources that are available to them. Celeste, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, so all of our services are confidential. So the person can call anonymous, or they can provide information as well, but we don't disclose that information. Even when we are working in collaborating with law enforcement, that once they leave the scene and we connect with the survivor, that all that information is confidential as well. We would need a consent, verbal or written, from the survivor to speak to anybody. And by anybody means like maybe another caseworker, an officer, an attorney, whatever that might be. And all of our services are free as well, so for survivors and their children.
Thank you. And then Celeste, I have another question for you. Does CORA work with offenders in a domestic violence situation, or do you focus on survivors?
Yeah, our main focus are survivors. We do not work directly with offenders, although our hotline, anybody calls our hotline. And if someone calls because they want to learn different tools or different ways on how to de-escalate, then we're there to provide that support. We give them tools, we talk about healthy relationships, and if they need resources like counseling, and we do collaborate with other providers that are able to provide that service for them in terms of counseling.
Thank you. I just want to share this quote that we received on Facebook. I'm not going to say the person's name, but they added this comment. So the person wrote, CORA is wonderful. I reached out to them in 2003. They offered me counseling. They really helped me through a very difficult time as I was navigating through a divorce from my physically and verbally abusive husband. They made me feel safe. They listened to me. They validated my feelings. Victims of abuse often feel lost, betrayed, and alone. CORA gave me guidance and hope, and I am glad 20 years later, they are still helping others. So that's a very powerful comment that someone shared with us, and I thank you for sharing that comment. And I think that just goes back to the wonderful things that you guys at CORA do to support survivors and to make sure that everyone's living a safe and happy life. Sergeant Hobbs, question for you. You mentioned how the laws have changed over the last 20 years or so. Could you explain the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony domestic violence crime?
Sure. So domestic violence, as Officer Surratt was saying, the legislator has created two different types of levels for those crimes. So a misdemeanor is hurting or hitting a cohabitant or non-cohabitant. partner, but not actually like leaving a bruise, right? So it's just someone that maybe got slapped or their hair pulled or spit on, that sort of thing. And then the felony is actually causing injury or some sort of like great bodily injury or that sort of thing. Like there's bruising, there's a bloody nose or a broken nose, or other serious injury. And all law enforcement officers in the state of California go through this training. So there's a learning domain. It's learning domain number 25. And if you Google post CA learning domain 25, you'll actually see what all police officers in the state of California who go through a police academy are taught on domestic violence. There's a whole handbook on it. And it helps officers actually classify the types of domestic violence, the impact of domestic violence that it has on the survivors, on those are around the survivor, like children, for instance. It teaches officers how to respond to calls for service. It tells the officers, what types of court orders are available, how to document the crime, and that sort of thing. So it's a very comprehensive, in-depth look on like how we need to be responding to domestic violence. In addition to that learning domain that we learn in the police academy, we actually go through regular training with domestic violence, which Post puts on the Peace Officer Standard and Training. But partnering with a nonprofit like CORA, where CORA is offering to come into the police department, and CORA has come to our police department, has actually met with officers here and done trainings in our briefings where they give us the most current and updated material, the resources that are available in our county, and if there aren't, and counties that are surrounding San Mateo. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And then just to tack onto that a little bit more, if you're wondering about the penal code sections between the two, 243E1 is the penal code for the misdemeanor domestic violence, and then 273.5 is the felony charge, which was a question that we got. We're going to keep a couple more minutes just to see if we have any other questions, final questions. If you do have a question, please tap the raise the hand button or email it over. And I want to thank CORA also. There's been many nights where I've had to respond to a domestic violence related call, and after de-escalating the situation, I've called you guys and you've always called me right back, and I was able to bridge that gap and get resources to the victim of that crime. So thank you very much for what you guys do. And it seems like we don't have any other more questions. So we're going to close out with some final words from the Chief of Police, Ed Barberini.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of those who spoke tonight. Thanks to Sergeant Hawks for opening himself up and sharing that story. That was pretty powerful. And of course, thanks to our CORA partners, not only for tonight, but what you do every day. We talk about how things have changed over the years, and I may be aging myself, but I remember what it was like before CORA and how helpless that feeling was when you would go to an incident where there was obviously some type of problem or some type of domestic issue in the house, and the laws didn't allow us to do what they do today. I mean, we didn't have a resource like CORA. Oftentimes we may just hand out a business card or something or a number someone could call and maybe leave a message and get a call back the next day or the next week, and someplace that was only open during business hours. To have the opportunity to actually connect a survivor with a live person on the phone who is willing and ready to help right away at the scene is something that we would not have imagined or envisioned back then. And I think sometimes we're so accustomed to it that we take it for granted, but we've heard about how valuable that resource is. And so I could not be more grateful for for CORA and what you do and how you help us do our job. We also talk about, we talked about the advancements we've made, whether it comes to the law or resources, but the downside is we're still having this conversation and we're still dealing with the same issue. And, we've done we've tried to do everything that we can think of to try to get ahead of this issue and do something different to try to eliminate the need for these types of conversations. I'm very, very excited about the community generated kind of effort to address domestic violence. I think Speak Up has tremendous potential, and I'm excited to see what that can do and what the results of that will be, as I know it will become more popular and spread throughout the county. And I'm hoping that one poll question, we're in October and we've been to 200 domestic violence calls this year. That means it's a daily occurrence, if not more. And that's just not acceptable for who we are in San Mateo. So we need to do something more to address it. And the leader, without a doubt, in this county right now when it comes to domestic violence is CORA, and that they're not a new leader. They've been a leader for some time. So thank you very much for being here, Lynn and Celeste. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to share what you do and how valuable that is. So thank you very much. And then to the rest of you, whether you're watching this live or this is something that you're going to take a look at down the road and watch it recorded on YouTube or Facebook or wherever. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully there is some information. If this helps just 1, 2, 3 or a handful of people and they learned a phone number tonight or they learned a resource tonight that they didn't know before they watched this, then this was all worth it. So thank you very much. Again, stay tuned for our next Real Talk. We are always looking for new subject matters and content. Please go back and take a look at some of the other issues we've talked about over the last few years. And we'd like to keep this going because it's a great way for us to engage the community. We did talk about whether we should move this in person or not, or continue the virtual approach. We think that as a matter of convenience, we think that the virtual approach right now is the way to go. But we're always willing to be flexible and change. So I want to thank everybody who helped in putting this on, and most importantly, our partners from CORA. So thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief. Any panelists, any final thoughts?
Just thank you so much for your partnership. And just a reminder to anybody who's listening in, our 1-800 number is open to you right now, whether you're watching live or you're watching a year from now, whatever. It's 1-800-300-1080. And as promised, I have the 8 cities, so 9 in total when you include San Carlos, that have signed up for Speak Up so far. So it's City of South San Francisco, Daly City, Pacifica, City of San Mateo, Foster City, East Palo Alto, Belmont, and Hillsborough. So cheers for all of you all who are supporting the community response.
Thank you, Lynn. And I think that's going to wrap it up. So once again, CORA's hotline number, 1-800-300-1080. If you know anyone that's going through any situation, please contact it. If you're going through the situation, please call them and get some support. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.